we really think they have one of the greatest cultures in the world. And what is seen is what to believe. When you walk down a street in Mexico and you're not in a tourist area, but you're in a real Mexican community, everybody says hello.
Welcome to the Retirement in Mexico podcast, your guide to a life of sun, sand, and possibility. If you've ever dreamed of spending your golden years under the warm Mexican sun, surrounded by breathtaking beaches, rich culture, and an exciting community, you're in the right place. We're here to guide you every step of the way with expert insights, inspiring stories, and everything you need to know to make your move with confidence. The best chapter of your life is yours to create. Let's do this.
Hello, Peter and Sharon. Thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast.
Hi, Taniel. Nice. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Hey, guys. So I heard you are packing things up and you're going to Mexico.
We are.
We are ready to go.
Ready to go.
Well, I mean, has this been on the radar for a while? Have you always wanted to move to Mexico?
Well, for us, this has been a journey. We've been looking at going somewhere different for over 10 years. So we have gone to Panama, looking very seriously. We've gone to Portugal, Spain, France, Singapore, of all places, which is a great country.
Wow.
And it always brings us back to Mexico, and Sharon can tell you why.
We love the Mexican people. We love their culture. We like the warm, welcoming feeling that we have always received anytime we've been there. And that's just always come back to Mexico.
Yeah, cool. So where in Mexico have you guys visited before?
We've been to Cancun. We've been to Playa del Carmen, Zihuatanejo, Cabo, La Paz, Todos Santos, and then recently
we've kind of done our research, and we wanted to see if what our research was with all the sources that are available now. We went to Mexico for 2 weeks. We went to Guanajuato. We went to San Miguel de Allende, to Querétaro, to Cuernavaca, to Tepoztlán, to Mexico City, to a little place that I can't pronounce, which is Tequisqualan, which is outside of Querétaro, and it's a beautiful, it's one of the magical Mexican cities. And we pretty much have settled on going to San Miguel de Allende.
Oh, great. That's a wonderful place to go. There are a lot of expats that are actually relocated there.
And we think that it'll be easier to get acclimated by being maybe in that culture first. So we can learn. He speaks more Spanish than I do, but I do want to work on being able to speak the language, maybe not having because they talk too fast.
Yeah.
So,
but we want to integrate with the Mexican people, and we want to integrate with the culture because we think it's just wonderful.
No, I love Mexico. They're a lot more social here. So if you go to a store and someone doesn't say hello to you, that's kind of odd.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I found is that tourists tend not to look at what is the culture of the country that they go to, and they make faux pas. That was one of the things that we researched before we went to Mexico this time, but we knew it even before then. So, because we've been to Mexico in the past 19 years, so we have been to a lot of places in Mexico.
Yeah. So what made you decide to settle on San Miguel de Allende and not some of the other cities you've been to?
Our research, we were looking for, weather. We were looking for no seismic activity, healthcare, safety,
ease of getting around, ease of, starting to fit into the culture there. And because it does have an expat community, it has two sides to that. The good side is that if you need to meet people and get together, you don't have that language barrier that we know that we have to take care of. But the other side of it, we don't want to be tourists. That's why we didn't go to Cancun or Puerto Vallarta or some of the other resort type places, because yes, it's hot. And we do have timeshares there. If we want to go to the beach, we'll come visit you in Puerto Vallarta.
Please do, yes. So was there a particular moment along your journey where you guys like looked at each other and said, okay, you know what? We're doing this and we're doing this right now. We've looked enough. Let's pull the trigger. Was there like a moment, like a catalyst?
Well, we've been thinking about it for quite a while. And I think the catalyst is that Sharon is turning 62 in September, which is great. That means she can take early Social Security, early retirement. And we said, well, what can we live on comfortably with my Social Security and her Social Security? Mm. And we went to Portugal last October with that in mind. But for whatever reason, Portugal didn't catch us the way that Mexico doesn't
exude the warmth.
And I think that was it. When we went to Portugal, which has a lot of similarities actually to Mexico as far as terrain and crops and that sort of thing.
And it's a beautiful country. I've been there. Yeah.
Beautiful country. But it just didn't have the same cachet that we always felt in Mexico. So that was probably the moment, because we both looked at each other and said, well, what do you think of Portugal? And I think the answer was, I think we like Mexico better.
Yeah.
And that,
for sure.
And then that set us on this research sort of goal. And I mean, we looked at every website, we looked at all the things, and they're great. They have great information. And then we decided, you know what? We're going to go there in person, and we're going to find out if everything we've researched is true.
So are you guys, do you guys have a guide? Is someone helping you with your move, or are you doing everything alone?
Well, the initial part we actually did alone. But recently we have contacted a gentleman in San Miguel de Allende, who I don't know if I should mention his name, but somebody that you know. And he's helped us get familiar with Carrie Lowe.
Carrie, yeah, I know Carrie. Great guy.
And he's helped us get from a deeper familiarity with San Miguel, and he's helping guide us through this. It's steps. You can't do all this at once. It's like you have to take, if you're like us, you have to take steps. There's some people that, they'll just like get on a plane and I'm in Mexico,
and we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, we have no idea what we're doing. And
we're
what?
Not that kind of
They've survived. I mean, Carrie is a survivor himself of that sort of.
Yeah. So, Carrie's a relocation specialist living in San Miguel. So when did you guys start the relocation process with him? How long ago? And when do you anticipate being in San Miguel?
So we started with him about a month ago. Yeah. And the only way that we were able to do that a little bit later in this journey is because of the amount of research we did ahead of time. And then we recognized the things that we didn't know. And so he came up on our radar and was recommended. So we contacted him, and we've been working with him since then, and it's been really good. And we anticipate actually moving to Mexico, lock, stock, and barrel, the end of October, before Day of the Dead.
Yeah, we have to go for that.
We want to be there for Day of the Dead, and
that's a great celebration. We have been there twice.
That's our deadline, if you want to. That's a little corny.
So basically, what is that, like 6 or 7 months you're giving yourself?
About 5 months. And the reason for that is because we live in Asheville, North Carolina. We have a rental that ends in September. Sharon turns 62 in September. So all the cards fall together at that point in time as to getting there at that particular.
So what has surprised you the most regarding the relocation process so far?
I'd say the first sort of surprise was, we're trying to give ourselves as many opportunities. We're going to rent. So when you go to Mexico and every place that you go, the rentals are available and they're very affordable. But we looked at an unfurnished rental versus a furnished rental. So unfurnished are usually less expensive, and it opens up a whole field. So the first real surprise was how much it would cost to move our furniture to Mexico.
Very eye-opening.
And that it's not a simple.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So I actually worked with Carrie to work with a mover that he's very familiar with and that they trust. And we came to an agreement that price-wise makes sense. I mean,
if we decide
to go with an unfurnished place and we bring our furniture. But whether we'll do that really depends on what we find once we get to a date that we can actually pull the trigger and say, yes, we'd like to rent it. 5 months in advance, you can't do that. But
so, something I say to my clients when they're moving to Vallarta is, certain furniture, like if you have a leather sofa, it's not going to last in Vallarta. So you got all the different climates. Yeah. So whatever furniture you're going to be moving, make sure it's suitable for San Miguel. So San Miguel's weather is pretty mild. Doesn't.
San Miguel actually is very similar to Asheville, which is nice. I mean, they have, Asheville's a fairly temperate area. It's up in the mountains. We don't have the rainy season that San Miguel has predictably, but it's got a lot of similarities in many ways. So
when you guys are looking at a couple of questions here. What type of a rental were you looking for, like a house or a condo, and the number of bedrooms? And what was the price like unfurnished versus furnished? What were the differences?
So we've kind of done a pretty deep dive into the different areas around San Miguel. So there's some developments, and that would be good because they're gated and they have security. Yeah. And then there's actual areas within San Miguel that are considered very safe and secure. And those tend to be houses, but houses in the sense of a city, that they're like right next to each other. It's not like you got a house in a big yard. Usually you'll have a courtyard or a terrace or a rooftop terrace. That would be great. So we're looking for something that's 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, has some terraces. We have 2 dogs, so it has to be dog friendly, which complicates things. And we have found anything from furnished from as low as $600 to, anywhere you want to go.
Sure.
Pretty much we're confident that we'll be able to find something under $1,000 furnished and nice. And
so was the $600 the furnished place, or was it unfurnished?
It was furnished, but it was smaller, and there's a saying, you get what you pay for. And,
sure.
It wasn't extravagant
might not be our
or
taste
anything.
in furniture,
and I would say if you're looking at something unfurnished, it's probably going to be, let's say it was normally $900. It would probably be something like $700 a month. Right. So that makes, you take that and you put it into a math equation, and it kind of works out as far as whether you're going to bring furnishings down there.
So what was the first step that you guys took when you started this relocation process?
Well, we had been trying to get an appointment at the consulate in Raleigh, North Carolina, was really difficult. They don't answer the phone. You leave a message. I finally got on email. He was able to get into their email.
I didn't expect to get on, but I did. I was like,
oh, this is to apply for your residency then.
Yes.
Yeah. But the first step, I think, was actually agreeing that we're going to do this. I think that was really the first step.
And how long ago was this? A month ago?
No, this was probably 6 months ago.
6 months ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Because so you guys sat down and you said,
when we actually it was probably longer than that. When we came back from Portugal, which was kind of our thought. So this was October of 2024. When we came back from Portugal, that's when we had the discussion. I don't think Portugal's the fit. Yeah. And that's when the conversation moved to Mexico. So we've been working on it for a while.
And then it was probably the event that happened in January that stimulated really like, okay, this is it. We're going.
Yeah.
We're talking about the new president moving in.
The event, yes, that we're talking about.
Okay. All right.
So,
Right now, what we're seeing is because of all the political theater going around in the United States, we've had a number of buyers contact us just saying, you know what, I'm sick of the political polarization and all the doom and gloom every time I turn on the TV. Is that something that was that a push for you guys as well?
Oh, it definitely bothers us. I mean, we don't like the direction that the country seems to be going in the sense of, the United States was always the place to come to. It was the country that other countries look to as a welcoming environment. And that has changed. And I think our image in the world has changed and not in the way that we would like to see it,
Yeah.
And without getting really digging into it, deeply, it's just not our beliefs. We come out of the hospitality industry. I've been in the hospitality industry since I was 13 years old, and you meet the gamut of people from all around the world. I mean, and you know what? People are good people, especially working people. And we came up in our lives working our way, and we treat people with respect. And I mean, even we ran our business. If you didn't walk into our restaurant as a staff worker and say hello, you went home.
Yeah,
you went home. And I would explain it to them. There's no way of being here unless you're going to start a conversation with hello. I don't care if you don't say anything the rest of the day. At least say hello. And that's Mexico. Everybody says hello to everybody in Mexico.
The culture is very warm and inviting, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So most people when they're deciding to make this big move, they've got fears and concerns. What would you say were some of your biggest fears and concerns, and how are those being played out right now as you're starting this process of moving to Mexico?
I wouldn't say. I don't think I really have any fears about moving there. I mean, you always hear about the climate, like, don't go to Mexico. It's too dangerous. There's cartel everywhere. You're going to get killed. Did you
experience any of that?
We feel safer there than we do in this country, for sure.
In almost 20 years of going there, I can say we have never felt in danger.
And we were driving around the country. I mean, it's not like
we drove through the Baja Peninsula. We went from Los Cabos all the way up to La Paz and all the way around, and never ever did we feel that kind of fear. And you see a lot of National Guard in different towns, with machine guns on their trucks, and you know what? We looked at that as they're there to protect us. They're there to
keep us safe. So
they weren't a threat. And,
and you can approach them. Like if you have a question, they're okay.
They're really nice.
Approach them and ask them, even if there was a language barrier, we can communicate. You got Translate on your phones and, I think, for me, it's more when you're trying to decide, do we sell everything that we have and just go there with our suitcases and our dogs? Or do you try to move everything down there? And when you look around your home at most of the things that we don't really need, that's more overwhelming to me than whether it's safe in Mexico.
We don't worry about our safety. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, when I was moving here in 2003, I had a garage sale. I had 2 weekends in a row, garage sale. I got rid of all the furniture and all the tchotchkes. And I basically just came down with my clothes and my CDs. This was 2003, so I had CDs
You date
and
me.
a DVD player and a CD player.
Your movies,
Oh
yeah.
man, yeah.
Yeah, and that was it. And you know what? You could buy all your dishes, sofas, and and everything else, and bed sheets, and God knows what over here. So I figured, why am I going to spend all this money, shipping all this furniture? And the thing is, I was renting at first, and I didn't know when I would be buying a home because I was 32 and I didn't have the money to buy at that time. So I wasn't going to be schlepping my own furniture from one apartment to another apartment to another apartment.
Yeah.
So it was great just coming down here with nothing. And then eventually when I bought my own place, then I bought, all the furniture, washer, dryer, and you name it. Right. So, and then that's super easy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that decision will become clear to us as we get closer to renting a place. When we see if there's a difference that really makes a difference in the sense of finding the right place that at the right price and
recouping
furnishing it versus not furnishing it, whether we'll recoup those things. And so, it would help us in the sense of making it easier in some ways. Makes it harder in other ways, makes it easier in certain ways.
Yeah.
So how are you guys feeling emotionally right now as you're going through this process? Are you excited, overwhelmed, a little bit of both?
I'm excited, but because I still work, he's home doing all the paperwork.
I've been doing all the paperwork.
I mean, you should see the pile of paperwork that we have to bring to the consulate on Tuesday. Yeah. But, so for him, he's been a little overwhelmed, and it's like...
Yeah. And I don't get overwhelmed easy, but this is the kind of stuff that drives me crazy.
Because we don't want to miss... I mean, we're 4.5 hours drive there.
To Raleigh.
So you don't want to forget something. Yeah. So, I mean...
And one of the things in the process of learning things is that we've learned that the different consulates will answer the same questions in different ways.
And they require different things.
And they require different things.
Yes.
And so I've been trying to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. And I figure if I have more paperwork than they ever need, that's okay. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what's been frustrating. The world has changed. Mm-hmm. And I think unless somebody has gone through this process, they don't realize how America has changed. And it's due to the fact that I hate to say it this way, there's so many crooks out there. And so getting paperwork from both the bank and from my investment people with that it's certified and signed off on was very difficult to do because it's not a process. It's a complicated process. They all have to be in compliance. Like banks have to be in compliance, especially stockbrokers and investment companies have to be in compliance. So what they can actually say and qualify you at is kind of difficult because unless you're there in their office printing up all your statements that they can stamp them right there, that's been the most, believe it or not, that's been the most challenging part of what I've had to do to put together for the paperwork.
Is the paperwork for the paperwork for the residency.
For the residency, you know, and they ask for, they ask for a lot, and we want to make sure that they get what they need. We're not hiding anything, and it's going to play out the way it's going to play out. Mm-hmm. But the one thing we don't want it to play out by is somebody going, "Oh, you needed this."
Yeah, yeah.
we want to make sure we have it, and I think we do. But
I keep saying,
when
we move next week, let's just go. Let's just we'll leave everything here. So I want to go.
Furnished rental.
Yeah, right.
So how close are you guys to getting a residency? When do you think you'll finally get that?
Well, we're going to know on Tuesday, the 22nd of April. We've got a 9 o'clock appointment.
And then once we have that, then we'll plan to go down to get our residency card.
As soon as that happens, then we'll go to Mexico. And that will get that whole series of other decisions set in motion, and we have a facilitator down in Mexico to help us with the Mexican
To
process
get
of
the
going to the
residency
consulate.
card.
So that's all
Correct.
set up and ready to go.
Yeah. People don't realize it's a bit involved. It's not as easy as they think it is. I mean, when I got my residency a million years ago here in PV, the process was quite different. Well, it's evolved and changed since then. When I applied for my residency, I applied here at the immigration office, but I think it was, I don't know, a little more than 10 years ago, 11 years ago. I can't remember. They changed the process where you have to apply at the consulate in the United States, get your visa, and then fly into Mexico and then complete the process at the immigration office over here.
Right.
So that's not how it was when I got mine. It was a lot easier, and the monetary requirement was a lot less, and the amount of paperwork was a lot less. So I think like you've got a facilitator in Mexico to help you out. That's really smart. Otherwise, you'll do a lot of running back and forth. Sometimes you'll never have the right documents. They forgot to tell you to bring another document, and it just delays things and just kind of gets you frustrated.
I mean, luckily there's some great sites on. I mean, I primarily used YouTube, and you can, as they say, you can look up anything on YouTube, and they were very helpful. And one thing that Kerry was great with is he got us in touch with two gentlemen that just went through the process in Raleigh. So we talked to them as to, what challenges they had, and some of the things that they didn't do correctly. We already knew about from our research.
We're not sure who was guiding them.
So, we feel pretty comfortable with it. It's just, working with any bureaucracy, and that goes for America or any place else you always have that challenge of feeling like going to the motor vehicle department and, oh my God, I made it through there in one try.
Yeah.
I can relate.
We're trying to do is go to the motor vehicle department and finish in one stroke. So
So have you guys told your family and friends, and what was that like? Are you getting any pushback or support?
I mean, some people are like, oh man, you guys are pretty adventurous, because we've always we don't have grandkids and stuff, so we can pretty much just move around wherever we want to go. That doesn't stop us, but we've always been pretty adventurous, even just with our traveling and stuff. When we were going to Singapore, one of my sisters, you can't go there. It's like, what if there's a tsunami? What if there's, it's like Sandy.
Singapore is one place in the world that's never had a tsunami.
Yeah,
but of course,
but she's like, you're going to be across the world, and it's like,
and I would say the most common comment we get is
good for you.
Well,
we can't
are you
going to
feel? Are you going to feel safe? No, well, that's the second
too,
one.
But
Usually, that's the first comment. Oh, it's not safe there, and that's when we come back and tell them, listen,
nip that in the bud right away.
It's much more dangerous than the United States, and we've had situations where
news yesterday kind of solidifies that for us.
I mean, the nice thing that we learned when we were in Portugal was that we were in Lisbon, and we had a tuk-tuk driver, and he said, see that building? And we were right in the center of Lisbon. He said, that is where there's the gun shop.
The only place you can buy a gun.
One gun shop in all Portugal.
And I looked in Mexico, and there's one
gun shop in all of Mexico. So, that's a positive in our view. And it's every time we've been in Mexico, we've only had great experiences.
Yeah.
And
I mean, some people I think we're nuts, but that's okay. And my mom, of course, she's like, I'm never gonna see you again. It's like, Mom, it's like we don't see each other that much anyway. And I go, and there's FaceTime. She goes, I hate the way I look on my phone. It's like, well, you can't,
And one of the pluses of Mexico is that we're basically in the same time zone as the United States. So when we're reaching out to friends and family, we don't have to think, okay,
it's midnight.
I'm calling you from Singapore. I got to call you at 1 a.m. my time for it to be, noon at your time. So, that's a plus. And getting back and forth from Mexico into the United States, if we have to come home,
it's pretty easy.
We'll come home.
Well, it's easy. It's an easy flight, right?
Easy.
It's no big deal. What are you guys most looking forward to once you're settled in San Miguel de Allende?
Taking a deep breath.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really. I mean, in the sense of just enjoying San Miguel, because it's, if people haven't gone to Mexico, they have a vision of Mexico, which just isn't true.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to any of the UNESCO cities, they are absolutely beautiful.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
And there's
Clean and
shops and there's places the food
wonderful,
is fantastic.
yeah,
And
wonderful restaurants.
like I said, we had a
He's
fine dining
he's a chef,
restaurant,
so.
and on this last trip that we went, I brought a friend with me. Now, he is a foodie. His job was to find the restaurants that we were going to eat.
In any of the cities.
Our job was to find where we were going to sleep and how we were going to get there.
Yeah.
And he came up with some of the greatest restaurants and inexpensive. The food, what they talk about as far as budgeting for food and budgeting for restaurants is very accurate.
Mm-hmm.
We ate at a 5-star steakhouse, aged meats, prime meats, for a quarter of what it would have cost in the United States.
Sure. Yeah.
And treated with such regard and respect. It was just wonderful.
And then I think, just embracing the culture and, and starting this new chapter of our life.
Yeah. I mean, once we get to San Miguel, it gives us the chance to go to all the other places in Mexico. There's a lot of other places we want to see and visit.
Mm-hmm.
There were other places that we had on our list that met our criteria when we were thinking, well, where are we going to go to? So for us, it may not be like,
that might not be
not the last
stop,
place we live. Who knows? Mm-hmm. We may end up in Puerto Vallarta. I don't know, but
we'll be neighbors.
Yeah. I mean, but I think the good thing is that we're older. I mean, most people won't say that that's a good thing, but you learn about yourself as you go through life and what's important to you. And the most important thing to me is the person next to me, and that she's happy and that she's content, and the idea that she can retire early is a great thing, because then we can live our lives together and have a good quality of life. Have a great quality of life. Yeah. I mean, we have a good quality of life here. Asheville's a great place, but she would not be able to take early retirement here. Yeah. Period.
So what does living your dream retirement in Mexico look like? What do you envision that being? Like you said, it's like taking a deep breath. But what do you see yourself doing?
I see myself
like day in, day out.
I'm going to wake up in the morning. I'm going to know that there's a little bakery shop that is in walking distance to me that does lattes with almond milk. And I'm going to get a latte with almond milk. I'm going to pick up a croissant or a brioche or something that I'm going to bring home to Sharon. And it's just going to be a relaxed walk. When I was in San Miguel in the Guadalupe area, there's an area where there is just a row of murals. They go on and on and on. And there's a fantastic bakery there that I found staying. And I was there 3 days. And by the time I left, the guy that was running the bakery, who owned it, invited me into the kitchen so I could look at his equipment, because I have that knowledge. And I asked him about sheeters and baking ovens. And I told him, I looked at his baking oven. I said, you got to put a filter on that, because that's what's going to save this oven for a long time. And you became friends immediately, instantly. Yeah. And exploring. That to me is going to be
getting to know. Yeah.
And the day will go on from there. That we'll be able to do what we want to do. And, I'll get a golf match in once in a while when I can afford it and find somebody to golf with me. And
Sharon, what do you envision your dream life being like in San Miguel?
not having to work will be really nice. But no, just exploring. And I mean, if we volunteer so that we can meet people, or, I think you take it day by day, but I think just having that relaxed, more like, it's not a grind like it is here, that if we want to take a day trip, or we want to, you just have that the freedom of being able to do whatever it is that we want to be able to do.
And not waking up to the news of the way we
doom and gloom.
100%.
The way we wake up. Yeah. And we're pretty positive people, but when you see things that just are not right,
it's kind of heavy,
that are negative, it's like, you want to let go of it, but it's important that
you don't want to be.
We don't want to see America go down that road. So we want to see America do great, and we'll be it's not that we're leaving here because we don't think that's going to happen. We're leaving here, like I said, the most important thing is in my mind is Sharon. She can retire early. That's a huge factor, and that we can afford to live very well in Mexico on our Social Security, which we would have a tough time doing here,
and not have to.
Yeah, and I have clients here who actually they live on their Social Security, so they're retired. Yeah. They're here. Their money goes a lot further, and it's worked for them.
Yeah, I mean, I've run the numbers, and it kind of backed up what we just spent 2 weeks
when we were. Yeah,
I have no intrepidation that we're not going to be able to live well within our means and
have a very
allow us to travel when we're not, during rainy season, perhaps in San Miguel, we leave and we come back to the United States and see our family and go other places. I mean, we always love to travel. So,
and it's easy traveling in Mexico. I mean, Mexico is not, it's a big country, but it's not as wide as the United States. So it's fairly easy to travel from one place to another, which is lovely, which I love.
One of the things that I always see on some of the YouTube discussions or question, I've drawn, one of the other things I did was I joined every single group I could join in the towns that we thought we'd be in Guanajuato and in San Miguel. So you get a lot of conversations. And I drove 1,500 miles during the 2 weeks I was there. I went through Mexico City 4 times. I should get a certificate for surviving that alone. But other than going through Mexico City, it was very easy to get around Mexico and not, you hear about, gangs stopping you on the road and all.
I mean, if not that you don't have to pay attention, but you don't get into areas that you shouldn't be in.
And you don't do silly things, but we didn't see any of that. I mean, you stop by and you get gas and you go to a Starbucks. I mean, it's not a whole lot different than here, So
what have you guys learned about yourself during this whole transition?
I learned I can drive through Mexico City.
I can't.
And that is an accomplishment. It really is. I feel so proud of that. That's my proudest thing.
I think, just having patience, I think, with the process, because I know there's countries that there's more than what we're having to go through doing that, to move to Mexico. But there's other countries that, you saw like Uruguay, you can go in one day and can live, you don't have to show any financial solvency or anything. So it's like, well, what's in Uruguay? I don't want to move to Uruguay. Yeah. But, I think just having the patience and with the process of everything and just keeping the faith and that everything's going to work out.
And we have learned that there is such a thing as Mexican time.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, if you know what your obstacles are, you can accept them and not have them drive you crazy. Because I was working with a realtor there and she was great. I mean, she was so nice, but her sense of time and my sense of time, it was very different. And we finally kind of worked it out between us, or at least I worked it out. It wasn't for her to work out. That was my job to work out.
Yeah. Was it 11
This
a.m.?
This is the a rental agent in San Miguel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the sense of, what she said was 5:00 is not necessarily 5:00, and not to worry about it. She was going to be there
Eventually she'll show up.
And like I said, that wasn't, I didn't, in the beginning, I'm thinking, okay, is this all going to work out? But after a while, I'd calm myself down. I stepped back and I said, that's not her problem. That's my problem. And I just have to understand that
acclimate
timing
yourself.
is different here and urgency is different here than it is in the United States. And
just another reason we want to get out of it.
And once you accept that, then everything goes fine.
Yeah.
Everything goes fine.
Well, guys, I mean, this has been great. And as we wrap this up, what advice would you give someone who's considering the same journey of relocating to Mexico? What would you tell them?
Do your research. Don't just, you're fed up with things and just move to a country without knowing. You've never been there before.
I think you have to look internally first. Who am I? What do I want out of life? And you have to set your criteria. I mean, somebody that's going to Mexico that may be 40 years old is much different than somebody that's our age going to Mexico, especially my age. She's young. And you set your criteria. Once you set your criteria, then the research part that you should do your due diligence. If you don't, you're hurting yourself. But that
it's just gonna
once
be
you do that, go to Mexico. Go there. Take a vacation. Go to Mexico. Go to a place that you think you're going to fit in and live it yourself, because you'll find that if you've done your research, that what they tell you is true. Especially you're always going to get naysayers. You're always going to get people going, oh my God,
stay here,
but
we're going.
If you want to stay in a place that has a lot of naysayers right now, stay in the United States.
Stay.
But you don't find that in Mexico. In Mexico, we've never find that. I'll give you a good example. We're fortunately we're members of Weston, and we go to Cancun a fair amount. And when we drive up that driveway, the person that's on the door will recognize us and come over and give me a big hug. Mr. Cooper, how are you today? I missed you so much. And mean it. Mean it. Mean it. It makes a huge difference. And I expect what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It blows me away, like here in Vallarta as well. People at the restaurants or the other, retail shops, they remember you. Maybe you haven't been there for a year or two, but then you'll pop up. You're like, hey, you have a wife. Her name is Sharon, right? You're like, wait a minute. We were like 2 years ago. Like, how the heck do you remember? Did you remember? They do.
Taniel, when we owned a restaurant for a number of years, and a fine dining restaurant, and we would, same thing. Somebody would come and it's like, oh, you still drinking Manhattans, or I always remembered what they drank. I didn't always remember their name or whatever, but it's like, oh yeah, you always, do you want me to make you a Singapore Sling or whatever it happened to be, and
you just want to get them drunk.
Yeah.
Well, that's, we ran a good restaurant. but yeah, no, it's, we're excited about it. We're really looking forward to it. And we know that there's hoops and hurdles that you have to go through with anything you do. Yeah. I mean, it's just that's part of life. And Mexico isn't any different than the United States in that sense, that you got to go through the process, and we feel confident and happy.
And you'll be down here before you know it.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so very much for joining us today. And if it's okay with you, once you're settled in, shoot me an email. I would love to do a recap and then find out about the rest of your journey and how life is going like in San Miguel. Is that okay?
That sounds great. Yeah. I think we'll give you once we go through the Raleigh consulate, that would be a great thing to talk about because
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get nervous about that, including myself at the moment. And I hope once I'm done, I go, oh, that was follow the breadcrumbs, and you'll get to the.
Well, you're going to follow the yellow brick road and wind up in San Miguel.
That's
yes,
right.
And so once you're there, I definitely want to talk to you guys again and hear about the second half of your journey and how you guys got to the finish line. Okay.
Great.
Sounds good.
Thank you so
much. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good
and we'll talk
seeing
soon. Take care.
Very good.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Your retirement in Mexico starts right here, and we're excited to be part of your journey. Every episode, we bring you the magic of Mexico, insider tips, and expert advice to help you take that next big step with confidence. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It helps others like you discover the endless possibilities waiting south of the border. Got a topic you'd like for us to cover? We'd love to hear from you. Send your suggestions to info@tanielchamsian.com. And remember, a life well lived isn't left to chance. It's created with intention. See you next time.